Hi, my name is Sarah, and you're listening to Control Alt Teach, where we discuss all things media and technology in education. Today's episode, which is set to be released on April 7th, 2025, is a really interesting episode.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you about the subject today, Sarah. My name is Amelie, and we're here today to tell you about the digital edge as well as discuss the concept of algorithmic bias, specifically how it is important for pre-service and in-service teachers to learn more about this topic and how it can connect to all our students. We will explain why we believe teachers need to be aware of the biases that present itself in our technologies in order to effectively use media and technology in the classroom.
Yeah, so first, a little about us. Me and Amelie are both third-year students at McGill University, pursuing our Bachelor's of Education in kindergarten and elementary. We hope this podcast is able to help other teachers or teachers in training. Okay, back to the topic. Today we're going to be analyzing algorithmic bias and the digital edge through a critical framework. Just a note before we start, this podcast contains topics of gender, sexuality, and racism, so keep that in mind if these are sensitive areas for you or anyone who might be listening with you.
Right. So what exactly does algorithmic bias and the digital edge mean? Well, algorithmic bias is essentially the reproduction of pre-existing biases that are found in society to the machine learning algorithms that are used in the creation of all computer programs, social media platforms, etc. Since humans always carry biases with them, and we're the ones creating our algorithms, these biases are embedded in our technologies.
Yeah, so the digital edge is where the physical world meets the digital world. So information can be transferred through this edge, just as biases can seep in from the real world into our digital world, creating algorithmic bias. Algorithmic bias basically explains how media facilitates different types of biases, and since students these days are spending more and more time online, on social media, and playing video games, it's crucial to bring up this topic in the classroom. Also, students already start developing a sense of oppression in the 5th grade, so it's not like talking about it will make it go away. We have to acknowledge it and teach our students how to learn to recognize it as well. We just want to be able to give them the tools to do so critically.
Right. So let's dive deeper into algorithmic bias. It can present itself in many forms, but one thing is for sure, algorithms in digital media are not neutral. As Sophia Umoja Noble explains in her book Algorithms of Oppression, people usually view digital media platforms as neutral technologies. However, as I mentioned earlier, technologies were created by humans who do hold biases. So these biases get reproduced in the digital world and affect us all.
Exactly. And these biases follow the same pattern as the ones that we see in our society already. So if we're thinking about this idea of intersectionality, which is where multiple aspects of someone's social identity can intersect to create varying levels of privilege or oppression, we find that women and women of color are particularly at risk for being misrepresented or sexualized in the media and algorithms.
Yeah, and these algorithmic biases can have serious implications on people's lives. According to a TED Talk by Joy Buolamwini, algorithmic bias can lead to real-life discriminatory practices. So algorithms are being used in major decisions like hiring processes, getting approved for a loan, insurance, college admittance, and even more things. I'm sure you can all understand how this can negatively impact visible minorities.
Exactly. And then if we want to talk about something that our students are more familiar with, like social media, algorithmic biases seep heavily into this as well. So for example, Black creators' contributions are being constantly appropriated by non-Black people, and also these algorithms negatively impact our students' self-esteem and body image. And our students are seeing this online and reinforcing this historical tendency even more.
When we think about the TPAC framework model, which stands for Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge Model, algorithmic bias in educational technologies can greatly affect the content knowledge presented to students. For instance, if an AI-based tool only presents content based on data sets that don't present diverse viewpoints, it can narrow the range of content that students are exposed to. This leads to incomplete information being transmitted to students, and this can even disengage them from the content.
And also, pedagogical methods are directly influenced by how technology is integrated into teaching. So if educators like us only rely on algorithmically driven tools, this can distort the way that the instruction is delivered.
Plus, algorithmic bias impacts students' cognitive abilities since it interacts with multiple levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Biased content can leave out important facts that students should know but won't know because of the lack of diverse perspectives. Students may also apply the knowledge they learned in the first two levels, so remembering and understanding, in ways that reinforce stereotypes. Also, they will struggle with critically analyzing information if they're constantly presented with incomplete or biased information.
So what can we do about it? Well, we must teach our students about critical media literacy as much as we can. This can help students identify harmful content that algorithms present, allowing them to avoid replicating these harms. Teachers can also use the TPAC framework to address algorithmic bias by selecting content from multiple sources to ensure diversity of content.
Yep. We must also make our classroom a safe space for students. Students should have positive role models to look up to in real life. When teachers are aware of these biases and actively work to counter them, it ensures that technology enhances educational experiences for all students.
So now we're going to present 2 tools that we found that we think might be useful for the classroom. Amelie, you can go ahead.
Okay, so one tool that I found related to algorithmic bias is called Teachable Machine by Google. It's a tool that allows everyone to create machine learning models, no matter their coding experience. Machine learning models are essentially computer programs that are trained to differentiate between two or more things. With this easy-to-use tool, educators can show students how easy it can be to train an algorithm with embedded biases. On the SAMR scale, which signifies substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition, this tool would either fall into modification or redefinition depending on how it's used in the classroom. If students use this tool to train an algorithmic model instead of learning about algorithms theoretically, the learning task is modified by the tool. Also, if students use this model to create completely new projects that were never even a possibility before this type of tool, it falls more into the redefinition level. It's free to use for educators and students, and there's lots of tutorials available on the website showing how to create your own model, and they even have lesson plans available.
Wow, that's a great resource. Mine is called Code to Learn. So Code to Learn offers free materials to Canadian students and teachers to help them acquire skills in coding, robotics, and computational thinking. So their name is purposeful, Code to Learn versus Learn to Code, because they want students to learn relevant information while coding. So their programs examine social justice issues, the environment, and Indigenous ways of knowing, while also learning about math, art, music, science, and social studies. Code to Learn includes culturally relevant activities that represent the lived experiences of both students and educators, so it's a really great inclusive tool. And on terms of the SAMR scale, I would say this tool falls between modification and redefinition because it uses coding as a tool to explore complex topics like social justice and environmental issues and Indigenous ways of knowing. So it's definitely modifying the traditional learning experience, but also when students are allowed to create projects that look at these issues, it opens up new possibilities for learning and creativity that wouldn't be possible without this technology, representing a redefinition, letting students engage with the curriculum in whole new ways. Yeah, so as we move forward as teachers and pre-service teachers, don't forget to always approach the subject of algorithmic bias and the digital edge through a critical lens in your classroom, or else it can have detrimental consequences on our students. My name's Sarah.
And my name's Amelie, and this has been another episode of Control Alt Teach.
Bye.